Good morning. Today is Tuesday, March 12th, 2024. It is 7:31 a.m. in the council chambers at City Hall, 1123 West Lake Street, Sandpoint, Idaho. And this is a regular monthly meeting of the Sandpoint Urban Renewal Agency Board of Commissioners. Roll call for the record. I am Chairman Eric Paul presiding. Also present are Commissioners Ken Perry, Marilyn Sabella via Zoom, Tom McCoy, Ned Brandenberger, and Jason Walker. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the February 6th, 2024 meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Motion.
So moved.
That was Commissioner Walker.
Second.
That was
Second.
Commissioner Bacoe. Sorry, Marilyn, Tom beat you out.
Okay.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes and the minutes are approved. Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public in attendance?
Not at the moment, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Financial report. The next item on the agenda is a monthly financial report. All account balances reflected are as of March 1st, 2024. The downtown general account balance was 1.517130 million. The revenue allocation fund is 94,990.71. And remember, that's our loan payment reserve. Northern 4,660,031. Downtown loan balance 891,912.67. That's as of March 1st. Next payment is due this week, March 15th. Income received in February, downtown 611,491.29, and the northern 306,551.22. Art funds downtown total balance available is 162,358. Northern 91,388 as of March 1st. Silver Box project advance to date is 18,315.22. There's a remaining balance of 1,684.68. Did the commissioners have any questions or comments regarding this month's report? Anybody from the public yet? Okay, on to item topic number 5, other announcements, reports. Are there other general announcements from the board or city staff? Heather?
Yeah, I would just love to share that the Arts, Culture, and Historic Preservation Commission is working hard on that walking tour with the expansion of the other side of the tracks, I like to think of it. So once again, we have our important Indigenous cultural history where City Beach was a summer village. And then you had our first town side, which is, was just directly on each side of the track. And then the dams in the 50s. After that, we had control of flooding and a lot of civic engagement with Lions Club and a lot of other groups, which is City Beach as we know it today. So we're really looking forward to adding those chapters, working hard on that. So when we get to a point where it's ready to share, I look forward to doing that. And the cover is coming along beautifully. So we have a graphic artist and an amazing urban sketch artist who's working on kind of bringing that art vibrancy to that brochure. So it'll be really engaging to want to pick up. So thank you for all your support and enriching that brochure.
Perfect. Thank you. Any questions of Heather? Thanks, Heather. Any other announcements?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, Jeremy, for the record, Mayor, a couple things. First, we will be, and we're in the process of putting together an RFQ for the design selection of the committee or the engineering firm that will design the First Ave Phase 3 revitalization. So that's going to go from, as you know, Bridge all the way down to hopefully Superior, but we'll just see how much money we can get and how far we can make it go. But that RFP will be going out in the coming weeks, and selection by the council of the engineering firm will keep you updated. Basically, you have plenty of money to proceed with design in the downtown for that phase, and the city can front you anything more if needed, and just really looking to kind of capture some of the vision in the waterfront design competition, what they call phase 1. and try to, keep that momentum going. So that's going to be coming forward. Really excited to, complete your final booked project for, the downtown district. In addition, I was visiting with Chairman Paul, and it seemed to me one of my pet peeves or frustrations and aspirations has been the downtown parking lot. That line item in your budget has been there, I think, since I might have even made the motion to put it on.
Right,
when I was
correct.
on Surrey back in 2013 or 12. So there's 200,000+ in that line item. There's another $50,000 plus in a parking study line item, and paired with some of the downtown art fund. I'm excited to bring forward a plan to, dress up a parking lot. I've often said that parking lot is like our front door for people visiting the community, and it's a little bit unsightly. So I have Eric Bush upstairs working on a concept and some estimates for a full grind, re-asphalting, striping, hopefully some improvements to the mounds between. There's a little bit of fiber down there, as you're probably aware of, a vault in the parking lot. And then working with Heather, seeing an arts commission, just seeing what else we can do. Maybe a nice, one of the things folks have mentioned is an actual sign placement for city business. You remember the old one that was down there with the lines and it was kind of tattered? Something like that where the city can actually post our full month agenda to try to help people engage and know what's going on. So, I just look at that and based on the other priorities that I'm facing, I don't see us pursuing a vertical development there in the next 4 years. So I want to at least do something to make the downtown a little more presentable in conjunction with everything else you guys have done. So I think that's it right now. Update on the Great Northern grants. We have been engaging with BNSF. It's looking like, that project, if funded, can go forward if it's funded by the railroad. We made it pretty clear that it's a big ask, and they said that crossing closure was their number one priority for safety in the state. So, my opinion, obviously council and you folks will have to weigh in. If we are not able to get that significant grant funding to pull that project off, I would like to at least seriously consider pivoting off of Great Northern and looking at the $6 million plus that you have forecasted for the Northern District and seeing what we could do either along Baldy, maybe even North Boyer from Baldy down to Super One-ish on the west side. Pisney's going to be relocating to that west side, and there's really no great sidewalk or pedestrian access there. And boy, you throw $6 million in a spitballing, brainstorming idea, and I think many of us can come up with some pretty significant projects that we could maybe do rather than the 20+ million we're looking at for Great Northern. So those are sort of the big ones that are front and center. I didn't follow the urban renewal legislation. I was pretty engaged down in Boise on some other legislation. There were rumors of something bubbling up, but if any of you know or were able to track that, please let me know. But that's one thing I haven't caught up on this week.
We usually get information updates from our council. We haven't heard anything from them yet.
Yeah, they were working to eliminate any ability to apply urban renewal dollars towards greenfield
Greenfields, yeah.
development. So there were a few legislators who were pretty adamant that was not appropriate use of the funds.
So Greenfield would be kind of what you see in Post Falls. A lot of urban renewal money was spent in agricultural land. Somehow they made it blight
Right.
and developed it.
Yeah.
So essentially, that's from 30,000 feet.
Yeah, no, that's right. Other than that, thanks for your service and look forward to, keeping you updated on projects.
So Commissioners, have any questions of the mayor?
Yeah, Jeremy, in your discussions with the railroad, is your impression that any financial support they might provide for the Great Northern Project would be contingent upon closing that crossing?
100%.
Really?
Yep.
So if we're not willing to consider closing that crossing, they're kind of like, you're not helping you with this project.
Yeah, that'll be coming to the council at your March 20th meeting. Pretty clearly stated in those efforts. You know, it's a project that, even from the last urban renewal meeting, there were, numerous, public comments. People are watching this right now. Obviously some county residents, and some residents of, it's the Goodman subdivision have, thoughts and, maybe some anxieties about what closing that crossing would mean for their day-to-day lives. You know, it's, you know, I respect that and understand it. It's, you know, if it's a $13 million grant, we don't get many of those, coming our way very often. So, I think, council have to decide, work through that.
Will we have any, excuse me, of course here, will we have any numbers in this presentation about like, if we're making a decision whether to move forward with this, if there are millions of dollars on the table, it influences the decision about the future of that
Sure.
crossing versus if it's $150,000 grant that we're talking about here.
Yeah, no, so our engineers, and Eric Bush are working on a, preliminary engineering total cost estimate. Should have that by the 20th. And, at least for me, if it's, the grant funding isn't significant enough to complete both phases, I will work towards, pivoting off this project. And, you know, we put, better than $300,000 into the design at this point. There is some significant stormwater. There are some significant stormwater challenges up there, especially, Silver Wings, the Cox's property. The whole area needs some stormwater work, so I'm not saying nothing, you know, I won't pursue anything for urban renewal in that area because the stormwater is a huge issue out there. But in my mind, if it's not, enough to do both phases, then I'm not sure, it's our best effort to chase a project that is $20 million when, I see no possibility, for us to complete it based on the obligations and challenges that the city's facing right now.
Kenneth?
Jeremy, on the parking lot, what kind of timeline are you looking at on that?
You know, we will, hopefully be bringing, some cost estimates and schematics to you, at your next meeting. And then we'd be looking this fall.
Good.
Just to try to avoid the summer crunch. But I'm hopeful the back of the envelope numbers look like if the Sandpoint street crew does the, well, if we can participate and work with the county, I'm really trying to foster a relationship where we can partner and use their asphalt grinder for many of our streets. And if the county, the road and bridge director would work with us to let us use that grinder, they grind it, have our streets crew grade it and roll it, and then, lay down some asphalt. But it's those sort of things where the $1 million a year we have for streets with the new, lodging tax doesn't even touch our obligations and the deficiencies that we're facing. There's no way we can do anything significant on our streets unless we partner with people. So,
Is that Jason Top?
yeah.
Would you move that vault off? Doesn't fiber kind of go through the part of it?
Yeah, all I know at this point, talking with, Kari, she's the only one who's given me any information on the fiber there. She said it's frequently filled with water and it's less than ideal. That's maybe if there's some utility money, we do have a little bit of money in our fiber, fund. But I don't know enough yet. At this point, it's just, you know, level it, grind it, grade it, hopefully asphalt and restripe and then, move forward.
You mentioned a potential kiosk, informational kiosk. I would, since we have Heather here, maybe consider also looking at, you know, placemaking, wayfinding signage in the parking lot, even if that's, as you said, kind of the front door of
Yeah,
Sandpoint.
I see that $162,000 detail this morning. I hadn't even thought of leveraging that. So obviously, the Arts Commission is gonna have some discretion working with Sura on how those dollars are spent, but that's the most immediate project I see. But I don't have full visibility of what the commission's doing right now. They might need some of that to do some other things such as, well, that's what it is.
And, while we're talking about the parking lot, I've talked to the police chief about some of the issues of long-term parking in that lot right now. So we may consider as a council adopting some policies about extend the duration that, you know, there were some vehicles that were left there for just weeks on end. Vandalism happened. We had people sleeping, we still have people sleeping in their vehicles in the parking lot every night. And there's no enforcement at all. So it's, as summer season picks up and we want to keep that fresh for tourists.
Yeah.
And locals.
Yeah, I think
Adopting some policies around sleeping in your vehicles in city lots and leaving your cars there for weeks at a time might be appropriate.
I think we need to revisit the parking and the lack of fees paid there.
Yeah.
So I believe it's still free. Is that correct? Is that right?
It is. One idea the police chief put forth was permits for residents. There are some low-income housing across the street from there that those people just leave their cars in that parking lot, but maybe those people come to City Hall and get a permit that has to be displayed in the window. So they're, you know, free permits for residents or for business owners that need that parking space, but it can't be a free for all.
Yeah.
And just a comment on using the art funds, that's a sign is maybe not considered art. So work with
Yeah.
Heather on that, because if this is a wayfinding sign and saying, here's what's going on, it's like, is that art?
I'm thinking Arch Gateway sort of.
If you do it right.
Yeah, if you do it right, so make sure you,
Yeah.
Also,
They-
placemaking, more cultural, you know,
Right.
historic
Right,
preservation. I'm
exactly.
not sure if that's considered art.
I think it is, but I think in the past, we've kind of walked down that path, because if you look at the stuff when you come down Cedar towards the landing.
Yeah.
No, I mean bridge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just introduced with this about a week ago, so I haven't even had a moment to wrap my mind around it and have a conversation with ACHP. But I'm thinking about placemaking and it being a merged arts, culture, and historic preservation. It will certainly acknowledge our history, but be celebrated in an artful way. So we'll figure out a really, a great way that it holds a function, but it's really vibrant.
Was that whole site the school?
Yes,
That's what I'm
The
sure.
original.
The whole block was a school at one time.
yeah, US Bank, yeah, Maryland.
Six
It
years at Farman Elementary.
was a beautiful school.
It was.
We need to do an oral
Travis-
history with you on that.
Marilyn, I don't want to date you. And I don't know the history. Was it standing in your lifetime there? In the 70s?
It most certainly was. And as I mentioned, I went all 6 grades there, as did my sister and my brother. And yeah, it was a great building in my mind.
Wow.
Definitely oral history.
Mhm.
And then just the last quick update, today at 2:00, we'll be opening the bids for the Fifth and Pine light retro design fit, moving the light from Church to Fifth and related two-way operations on the west part of Pine there. So we'll see what those bids come in at and if we can pull it off. That was directed by the outgoing council to proceed with that funding of that design, so.
And that's a construction bid, right?
Yes,
We're
Yep.
through the design
Yeah.
stage.
and that would take place this fall.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the updates. Any more questions of the mayor or Heather? Moving on to item number 7, new business. With no further old business updates specifically planned for this meeting, we'll move on to new business. The first are the 2023 Sandpoint Urban Renewal Agency Annual Report and Financial Report prepared for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2023, pursuant to Idaho Code Sections 50-206 or 2006, 5C and D, on or before March 31st of each year. SUR will file with the city a report of its activities for the preceding calendar year to include financial data and audit reports required under Idaho Code Section 67-1075 and 67-1076. Additionally, the agency is required to prepare and file with the city an annual fiscal financial report. All right, so this is the annual report. We provide, we complete this every year and have to submit it to the state by the end of March of each year. So in essence, the report, the first part of it, this talks about who we are, as you see here on the first page, our areas. We've got the downtown area, we've got the northern area. So this is just how we were created, when we were created information. Then go back up a little bit more, a little bit more. So here it talks down. So what we funded in 2022, 2023, downtown street improvements and engineering, we funded approximately $550,000 in for phases 1 and 2 of the project, and the funding occurred September 12, 2023. And then we did do some funding, received money from public art. There was no money spent for public art last year in the downtown district. The northern, again, it goes who we were, how we were created, and then we had no projects funded in the northern last fiscal year, and we did have no art either. Then we talk about where our revenues came from. So like we give a breakout of both northern and downtown, what we received, and then we go over our operating expenses, monies that we spent for legal, repayment to the city for Melissa's time, filing of reports, etc. Finally, we go to our assets and liabilities section. It talks about our assets are primarily cash and receivables. We have no other fixed assets, liabilities and debt. Our long-term debt is our payment our loan that we used for the downtown streets. That's our only long-term debt. Commissioner Bokoe had a question earlier, and I'll let him address that right now.
And I think this one actually shows up on the audit tab. So do you want to say that for 7B, or should we go through it now?
We can go over it now and cover it again because it's part of this report in
Okay.
essence, and then it filters into B.
So on page 7 of the report, this is the audit report on the assets and liabilities. And again, and this could also just be my lack of familiarity with government accounting versus private sector. But we list out on our assets the fact that we've got just over 1.5 million of property tax receivable. That means that these are property taxes that we are expecting to get in the next 12 months. Again, it's not clear if it's a current or non-current asset, but typically a current asset is something you're going to collect within 12 months. But then on the liability side,
We're gonna pull up the
sure.
audit.
Yeah, it's page 7.
Thanks, Melissa. Page 7. Right there.
Yeah.
Back up.
It's page 4 on the document.
Gotcha, sorry.
There.
Yep.
Back.
Back there.
Well, that's page 8,
Oh, so it's also listed up on page 4.
and page 9.
That will,
Right?
that will work.
Okay,
It's the same numbers.
Mhm.
They report different spots, multiple spots.
So you'll see that we have 1.564 million of property tax receivable. That's our asset. So that's going to be an asset because we're going to collect that. I'm assuming these are all current assets because it's cash, which is current. And then on the liability side, so accounts payable, that's money that we have that we're going to pay out. But then it says unearned property tax as a liability. So that's just money that we're supposed to collect. And I think it's just minus the delinquent would be my guess from the note. But I just want to have maybe go back to the accounting firm and make a point of clarification. One, clarify, is this really just our current balance sheet? Not totals. And if it is current, why are we calling an unearned property taxes a current liability? Since in my perspective, we're not paying that out within 12 months. That's just money that will be converted into cash. Now we can then pay it out into projects, but those projects aren't spoken for yet. So I don't see that as a current liability. So
So I'm gonna get, Tom and I are gonna create an email back to our auditors. And we'll get clarification on that and we'll report back at our April meeting. The clarification of that.
I would also like to comment that we did spend art funds for the Silver Box program in 2023 in the fall.
What time in the fall?
After the end of our fiscal year.
Perfect.
Yeah, our
Okay,
fiscal
so
years,
I was wondering if it
our
was
fiscal year is October 1st to September 30th.
Okay.
and we
so it's
paid it
right
after.
Before,
Right,
yeah,
yeah,
very good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, do commissioners have any questions or comments regarding the service annual report?
I guess, do we need to approve this? Could we approve this next month based on the clarification, or do
No.
we need to approve it
The
now?
the annual report is different than the financial report. So
Okay.
separate them. Because the annual report just basically states, here's what we did last year. And revenues in, money spent out. That's all the annual report is to the state. The financial audit is a separate component. It's in there, but it won't impact the annual report.
So
So,
we could delay 7B if you choose.
Correct. The audit, you can delay the audit if you choose to. The annual report has to be accepted because we have to submit it. If we approve it today, when I get back to the office, I'm sending it in. Because you don't want to go past that March 30th deadline, you get in trouble.
Yep.
The annual report, we have till later in the year to submit it.
Financial report.
Financial, the audit. So, does that help clarify that?
it does.
All right, I will entertain a motion to accept the 2023 Sandpoint Urban Renewal Agency Annual Report.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
we do have a member of the public online if we wanted to give them the opportunity to speak on the annual report in case they wish to do so. Kyle, do you wish to speak on the annual report? Raise your hand if you do. One of our council members. Nope, looks like he's just listening in.
okay.
So moved.
Commissioner Perry? Second?
Second.
I think that
I
was.
believe it was Ned.
He was last. No, Marilyn was-
Marilyn.
We'll give it
It's
to
Marilyn.
Commissioner Sabella, because there's a delay in
Yeah.
the sound.
Indeed.
Thanks, everybody. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. I will now entertain a motion to accept the Sandpoint Urban Renewal Agency financial report for fiscal year September 30th, 2023. So if there's no motion, it'll die. Or do you make a amended motion to
You can move the table it to the next meeting.
move the table?
Second,
Oh,
So-
yeah, I'll move the table it to the next meeting.
Commissioner Walker made a motion to move to table to the April 2nd meeting, and Commissioner Bocoe seconded. And again, that's to seek clarification on the liability.
correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No one, motion passes. These reports will be, the annual report will be filed with the city as required by the state law, and notice of filing the annual report will be published in the newspaper. Next item under 7C, the board will consider approval of payment of the invoice to the services rendered for the service annual audit. Do the commissioners have any questions or is there any discussion other than the discussion on the clarification, the liability?
I mean, should we wait to approve until we get our answers from them, or obviously
Well,
we've got a pretty good enough
this is a-
relationship with them?
This is an invoice. We still have to pay the invoice.
Work
Work completed.
completed.
So move.
It's complete, but
We might get it
you
out.
don't have to vote yes. So Commissioner Sabella moved to accept payment, approve payment. Is there a second?
Second.
We'll give it to Ned Brandenburger. I'm being fair here because I'll tie here. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
You can oppose it.
That's all right.
All right. The motion passes. This payment will be made as approved. The last item on the agenda, item 7D, following the meeting with the mayor of Grimm and based on mayor recommendations, the board was asked to evaluate shifting sewer cash balances from current money market to state-sponsored LGIP investment. Commissioner Bakoe is going to make a presentation on this.
And I'll bring this up, Tom.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And actually, Commissioner Bakoe and Commissioner Perry worked on this.
So, after the mayor asked us to take a look at shifting our cash balances to a higher yielding LGIP program, took a look at some of the details of that program, the yields, as well as what some of the differences are between that and our current program. So you can kind of see in this chart here, and we didn't have data points for every single one, so I had to just kind of straight line some of the points in between, but I think it gives you a good general idea. There's a significant yield improvement with the LGIP program compared to our current one. And I also didn't have monthly balances, but it's between $90,000 and $100,000 more in interest per year moving to the LGIP. Most of that's because we have a large balance in the Northern District. So, and there's a marginal cost. It's like 0.0006%. I know I put it in here somewhere. Ends up being like about $30 a month to be on the program. So it's essentially a negligible cost to move money in and out. There's a $25 cost per transaction. So again, nothing that's going to really move the needle on that. Some of the key differences. So our current money market is FDIC insured up to $250,000. The LGIP is not the same, but they are required to invest such a large portion of their money in US treasuries. Essentially 95% of it has to be extremely low risk. So I made the point, as we were discussing, if the LGIP goes under, the last thing we need to worry about is that, we're worried about revolution and things like that.
How are most of them 10-year treasuries?
I don't know. It just said treasuries, or it might have had the details. I don't remember. So yeah, just based on our current amount of revenue, then this doesn't include the increment that we're going to get, assuming we don't, spend all of that. It's about $100,000 more in interest compared to what we're currently getting, and that's money that we can then spend on projects and things like that we otherwise wouldn't have.
Is there any difference in the liquidity, how quickly we can get assets out?
If you pull out more than 10 million, they want a 3-day notice, which we should be okay with.
It'll be a while before we have 10 million in there.
Not at these rates. No, I mean, we could bump up against that in probably about 2 years though, like assuming we don't spend the 1.5 million increment that we're getting. Especially, when you look at the Northern District, like we could bump up against that again, if we were to pull it out within 1 day at one time, which we probably wouldn't.
Tom, was that 100,000 or 90 to 100,000? Based on the difference between what we're currently earning and what we could be earning?
Yep.
So I mean, as it trends down, which it will, once the Fed starts making some decisions, that number will shrink a bit.
Well, potentially, but you can also see that it was higher even when the rates were lower.
Mhm.
So it's the 100,000, that's just the delta between the LGIP rate and our current rate. So assuming the delta stays the same on the way up and the way down, it would still likely be, essentially it's about a 1 to 2% difference, even on the way down. So.
Yeah, and the city invests funds in this pool as well, so it's safe and we trust it.
I serve on our board and we invest in it as well.
Okay.
Do commissioners have any further questions of either Commissioner Bakoe or Perry?
So if we're looking at something like this, because obviously it's going to start trending down, the question is when. Would we also consider some longer term CDs that are in that 5% range to lock that rate in for at least that 12 to 18 month period?
If we're not going to spend it?
Because we're not anticipating spending a large portion of our money, particularly in the Northern District, in the next 12 months.
Yeah, because I don't think even if BNSF comes through, the time of spending are you still moving forward with engineering plans and whatnot?
Because we're gonna go a little bit further, not much.
So we'll be getting some invoices in.
And they're not mutually exclusive. So I mean, we can make this change right now. This is just where we're putting our
Right.
extra cash. We can then make another decision,
Right.
to then take a
Okay.
portion of that, and put it into
Yeah.
a CD.
Because we've done that elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I looked yesterday, there's a 12-month CD with JP Morgan that's 5 3/4, so 5.35%. So, you know, a reasonable difference that at least locks it in for that 12 months.
CPI was up again today, or it's like 3.7, so that may not be done yet.
Right.
Personally, I like liquidity, cash is king, and, I think having accessible pools of money makes us more flexible and nimble, so, but I defer to you guys,
That rate's almost 5.3.
yeah, it's, and I believe it pays out quarterly, I mean, it's reinvested accrues every quarterly,
I don't remember from looking at it.
but, and that's 100,000 per year, right?
Yeah, more than what we're getting.
Yeah,
Great.
But to your point, Tom, we could do this now. We could approve this today, and then if we want to explore other options, we could go down that road another
Yeah.
day.
Exactly.
and that's predicated on time of city projects, because if you stick in a CD, you lost some liquidity here and it's over there. It's
Sure.
like, oh, now we got to cash it in. But the penalties aren't that big, one quarter of interest. Not a 1/4%, you lose a quarter of interest on a year. Any further questions of Commissioner Bacoe or Perry? Would anyone from the public care to comment? Does the board wish to make a motion? Motion to move, moving excess liquidity to LGIP. So I guess we have to make a discussion, how much we move it.
Correct.
We want to make, how much we're gonna leave.
I would move to do 100% of it. I don't think there's any real benefit of keeping I mean, it just adds complexity.
So you can't move your revenue allocation monies.
I think you're gonna have about maybe about 200,000 if we complete the contract, with the engineers right now, very much outstanding. I believe you're at about 360, and I think that's 5 and change.
So can we approve,
We hold back.
we need to hold back the payments, reserves in the downtown. There's money going to be spent for GNR. Well, not immediately, but not within the next month or so.
Yeah, and you can move this if you need to, right?
It's a
Yeah.
phone call to bring the money back, correct?
Yeah, and $25 ACH fee.
Right.
So your motion needs to, how much you moving?
And I guess I don't appreciate, why would we not move all of it? Just because we expect to pay that out within 3 months?
I agree.
So make motion
I'll make a motion to move it all.
for both districts other than,
But it would only be the general account dollars, correct?
Correct.
Second,
So I'll restate the motion for clarity. Commissioner Brandenberger motioned that we will move all balance from the Northern General Allocation Fund account, which is approximately $4,660,031. And we're gonna move the downtown general account of 1.5 million, 17,130.
And then to clarify,
correct.
as we get new increment, does the new increment automatically go into the LGIP fund?
Or do we have to present?
I think you have to present.
Because we don't currently have to do that.
We have nowhere else it's going.
Just go into
Currently.
the money market
It's
account.
going in the money market currently. So now we have another investment tool.
Mhm.
So it goes in there, then we have to decide, are we kicking it out, because there might be a project time that you keep it in there. Because if there's an invoice coming in from the city, well, it does make a difference. I think there we'd have to discuss it.
Okay.
Second, on the motion, initial motion.
Second.
Commissioner Sabella, made a second on that motion.
I did.
So is, in the discussion is your question, as increment comes in, do we automatically send it to the LGIP? Is that correct in your discussion?
And we can wait until we start
Okay,
getting the next increment before we
Right.
have that discussion, because it's, you know, it's just twice a year that we get the big
Yeah.
month,
yeah,
amounts of
exactly.
dollars.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so motion stays, all in favor?
I,
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. With no further business on the agenda, the meeting is adjourned at,
I just had one comment on that.
Yeah.
So we need to pick somebody to then make this happen, because I know the person that signed, okay, so Kevin's going to sign up.
since I'm the bank,
Yeah, you can't do
I
it.
can't do it. So you guys are on it, so you guys can work out the mechanics of setting up the LGIP account and how to initiate transfers back and forth.
Great.
Fair enough. With no further business, meeting is adjourned at 8:12 a.m. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you,
Bye,
Jeremy.
Marilyn.
Thanks for the idea, Jeremy.
yep, sure, yeah.